Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Gasol.
Well, it's a beautiful Monday morning here in Lagos, Nigeria, and you're welcome to the program. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Well, when the Senate resumed... Okay, we've got Mark Way. Good morning, Mark Way. Okay, well, you get to see her.
Good morning from Abuja. Good morning
Nice.
indeed, gentlemen, and good morning to our viewers this morning. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusuf.
Oh, great to see you, Mark Way. You know, last week the Senate resumed, in fact, the National Assembly resumed, and well, I think what caught the news more in that resumption was a request from the president for extra loans, as some people would say. Well, in that letter, it was said to be just an extension of that, the previous plans to 2021. It was originally 2020, so a little extension, as it were, and was meant to accommodate that loan. So it got a lot of people talking, and just recently, over the weekend, we caught up with former president, former head of state, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who, amongst other things, is famous for being quite instrumental in that, Paris debts wipe-off, if I could use that expression. And, the question we put to him was regarding the recent conversation around loans and debts and borrowings and the rest. He's spoken about this not once, not twice in the past, but with the recent trend, we thought to get an insight. I mean, because this is someone who was in the thick of things. And, he was quoted as saying at that time that Nigeria will not owe any kobo to anyone or any country in the Paris Club. That was at that time. You have countries like France, Germany, the US, and other rich states, countries in the Paris Club. So that was at that time. Well, today it's a different case entirely. But listen up to what the former president said, and we'll come back for some more insights.
If you want to build a commercial house and you go and borrow money and you have 50% of your own money and you borrow 50%, and in 5 years you will pay the 50% that you borrow, that is a wise thing to do. But if you have to go and borrow money for you to be able to feed you and your family, that's a stupid thing to do. So if we are borrowing for recurrent expenditure, it is height of folly. If we are borrowing for development that can pay itself, of course, that is understandable. Then the paying itself, how long will it take to pay itself? But if you are borrowing and you are accumulating debt for the next generation and the next generation after them, it is criminal.
Well, there's very little to add to what the former president has said, gentlemen, because I think that, economists have continued to explain that it's not so much what we're borrowing, but what we're borrowing for. The federal government maintains that they're borrowing for infrastructure. We've seen airport development, we've seen rail development happening in many parts of the country. But there are some questions that did not seem to answer satisfactorily, because as you all know, we're worried about the revenue to debt ratio, not the revenue to GDP ratio, which you've told us is fine. The question is, how are we raising revenue to be able to support the borrowing? Because so far so good. It would seem that all the revenue that we seem to have made so far, a huge chunk of it, a substantial amount of it, is going to debt servicing, not even debt repayment. So there have been questions as to how the projects, the infrastructural projects that we are undertaking, are going to pay themselves back. We've been told that it's going to be in the economic growth which these projects will spur along the line of their development. The question is, are we going to be able to recoup enough from the economic developments that will come as a result of the development of the infrastructure? So, for instance, they're hoping that, and this is just an example, by developing the Abuja-Kaduna rail line, they're hoping that commerce will be faster along those lines, that economic activities will be boosted along those routes. By developing the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, there'll be lots of economic activities along those routes, and that, economic activities will be a lot easier to conduct. The question is, will the federal government be able to recoup, for instance, taxes from those economic activities, which will in turn boost our revenue? Or are we just hoping that when we just, improve economic activities somehow, because the lives of the people will be better, that would somehow translate to revenue for the federal government? These are the, I think let's say opaque, or the lines that are a little blurry, the areas of gray that need some explanation, because as people are worried, our debt is growing by the day, and they're wondering whether we're leaving debts that our children might not be able to pay for. There are also people who are worried as to the people from whom we're getting this debt. That during the period of some of our leaders, we took debts from people that could forgive us. For instance, we had the Paris Club, IMF, World Bank, and all of these people where you could go and make a case. Interviewing someone recently, he raised very strong objections, Senator Ike Ekweremadu, who was saying that China, from whom we're taking these loans, do not have a history or a precedent or an antecedent of forgiving debts. When you're not able to pay back, what they do is take over your assets. And as you might have noticed in the House of Representatives, there has been an uproar as a result of this clause of sovereignty, which is normally included in many debt agreements, where you cannot now plead sovereignty as a country. All of this is also there as well. So I'm hoping that there will be a lot more clarity, a lot more transparency. It might be difficult to explain, and it might meet with plenty of criticism, and maybe people who have already made up their minds. But if these debts are being taken in our names, and the names of our children yet unborn, it is important that we all know what it is that the country is getting into. Gentlemen.
Well, they always argue that there's... Of course, it's good to borrow to fund infrastructure. Nothing wrong with that. But they say, look, according to figures from DMO, as at March 2021, total public debt had hit 33.1 trillion. And so they asked that, well, if over 80% of the revenue is being used to service the debt, if our actual revenue cannot cover recurrent expenditure, then it's a question about sustainability. So, which is an argument that will be out there for a while, because even, you might have heard Senator Ndume lending his voice to how the Senate is handling the entire process. So, different perspectives, different parts of all of this will always be major talking points, which I suspect, in fact, there are more borrowings to come. So it means there will be a lot more talking points when all of these, or that time, does come. Well, that said, we're going to delve right into some of the dailies we've got for you here today. We'll start with Vanguard newspaper. In fact, they talk economic-related matters as well. Take a look at the front page of Vanguard here today. It's about VAT. Yeah, the unending VAT war. And this time you see OPS fears double payment, heads to court. So, last time out, it was NECA that was seeking clarification on who to remit to. And now, this seems to be a step further from what was reported last week. And so, I guess the courts have got a lot to decide. You might need to read this and see what the priors is for, irrespective of the previous cases, as to who will or who is supposed to collect this VAT in the first instance. And the rider here, amendments sought by FIRS at NAS, dead on arrival. Akeredolu. So, yeah. And then import surge pushes trade deficit up by 158% in H1 2021. Puts increasing pressure on Forex, described to analysts. Reflects Nigeria's weak production capacity. Ex-LCCIDG, fallout of COVID-19, economic recession, that is Nasima speaking right there. They've got security-related stories at the bottom strip there, which you might like to take a look at. So, you can also check out the back page if you will, but that's Vanguard this morning.
We'll take a look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. the big one. Naira depreciates by 209% in 6 years. CBN defends currency with $130 billion, rolls out tens of policies. It's a page 7 read. You know, there's been a lot of conversation around the Naira, Forex, and rates and the rest. So you might want to actually catch up on this one. Page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune. And you see that VAT, you see war now?
Yeah, so the paper caption is this one, VAT war.
You see FIRS amendment move futile. Dead on arrival. That's according to Akeredolu. So I mean, seeing OPS, NECA, thinking, where do we go from here? So when the federal and states fight in court, it's the businesses that suffer in this case. And I mean, we're talking about raising revenue, right? Generating more, you know, taxes and the rest. And if this is where we are right now, you wonder if this will not set us back. I just hope not. On top of the nameplate, you see practical ways to save the Naira beyond tantrums. This looks like an interesting one. I see this one also. Kyari is CEO, Arume chairs board as Buhari directs NMPC Incorporation. Well, yes, that's what you get from the PIA, right? So, as you would expect, things are falling in line. Page 25 might interest you. And just at the bottom of the front page, a really sad one. Still trying to recover from this one. Obadiah Melafia dies at 64. And on the back page, you see Obadiah Melafia dies 3 months to 65th birthday. Now, besides the fact that we've had to, you know, speak on different occasions, sharing from his wealth of knowledge, he's also a columnist to various dailies in the country. And that's what you have there, as well as other stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Mark.
Well, let's take a look at what the Abuja Inquirer has for you this morning. Trademore estate flooding, how negligence, laxity caused tragedy. Count us out, that's according to FCTA. 6.1 billion naira property saved in 2020, that's according to FEMA. Just in case you're wondering what the Trademore estate flooding is about, it's an estate here in Abuja which experienced flooding last week, and a number of people, well, 4 people were said to have lost their lives. As according to official figures. The estate people maintain that there are about 7 people who lost their lives in the accident, but it was something that was totally avoidable because these are floods that were long predicted, and they had happened before. So the Abuja Inquirer is focusing on it, how negligence, laxity caused tragedy. You also see this, FCT, 10 other states get new chief judges, and a very sad one occurred yesterday. Melafia, Middle Belt Forum, NC Front, others kick over poor treatment. I think making reference to how the former Deputy CBN Governor died in Abuja. It's a page 3 read. You have a number of other stories just beneath the nameplate, but we'll leave you to do that yourself. Let's leave it there for the Abuja Inquirer.
Yeah, take a look at New Telegraph next. Fani Kaide, Treasury looters, now heroes in APC. Party chieftain. So, speaking up within the party themselves. Says ruling party has lost direction. Urges Nnamdi Kanu Sunday Igboho to join APC. Okay, you would have thought what's going on here, but that's what it's on the front page here this morning. So you might just go ahead and see that one as well. So yeah, you also see they also reflect the late ex-CBN Deputy Governor Melafia dies at 64. Especially the narrative about how it was handled, how he moved from one hospital to the other, the kind of attention that was given or lack of it. It really left a lot to be desired, reading all of those and seeing what transpired. So it's a pretty sad one there. May he rest in peace. And then you see at the bottom strip, $5 billion loan, Buhari piling debts for future generations. Obasanjo. Senate indicts 39 MDAs over unretired advances to Federation account.
Now, how many times have we heard that?
And you know, they keep talking about this loopholes, these holes, leakages. in the system that if you do plug them, I mean, last Friday we were told you may not even need to borrow as much, because if you're going to address some of these, that's just what you see there. That's news, New Telegraph this morning.
Well, next up is Nigerian News Direct. With this one, ease of doing business. ETI, Axis Bank, 9 others grant 20.7 trillion naira loans to customers. So page 2. And you see this one as well, I mean, as we spoke on earlier on, borrowing for development can pay for itself. Obasanjo, that's over the $4 billion debt proposal. You can catch that interview on our YouTube page, just in case you missed it. And that one, NIDCOM presents 600 diaspora icons at 60. Oh yes, and I think this is something we've spoken about. In fact, to offset the loans, people have said, pointed to Nigerians in diaspora, because if you're borrowing in dollars, you need to earn dollars to repay those loans. And one sure way, it might seem, is to leverage on the skills, the wealth that Nigeria has in diaspora. I know a lot of people are wincing and thinking, what? No, slow down. But hey, it's one of the ways out. So,
well, if we have a structure to leverage on that, then you never can tell.
Exactly. So I do hope that this is part of that drive that NIDCOM is on right now. A couple of other stories you find there. Ex-CBN Deputy Governor May Lafia dies at 64. Some stories on the back page as well. Let's leave it there for Nigerian News Direct.
The Guardian newspapers has this one. Manufacturers' demand for Forex nears $2 billion amid scarcity, weak naira. Middle-class Nigerians shop for stable dollar as FX crisis continues. It's the Guardian, gentle people. The naira, in a moment of decision, trades at 570 naira to the dollar. You also see this. Gunmen on the rampage in Southeast. Kill 3 policemen, torch INEC office, disperse political meeting. Police intensify efforts to arrest suspected killers of policemen in Onitsha. Court shut down in Imo as lawyers protest killing of spokesman. 26 security officials, 11 others killed by non-state actors in 2 weeks. It's a page 2 read. You also find other stories on the corner of the paper. 11 bandits killed, 3 victims rescued in Kogi State. Don't rubbish yourself in 2023. PGF DG advises Jonathan. And this is another political story. 2023, Tinubu is our Southern Capone in APC, he says Akere Dolu. Resident doctors continue strike appeal against court ruling. That's also there on the front page of The Guardian for you. Let's leave it there for the paper.
Aims is next, and they pick up on the VAT matter, that controversy about it, and how they report that matter on the front page of Daily Times this morning. Reads, OPS wants FG's directive over VAT payment. Says delay in addressing the issue could cause negative effect on businesses. FIRS push for amendment of VAT Act will fail. Governor Akere Dolu. So there you go. And besides, when they go to court, it will take a while as well. You know, it may take a while. You never can tell some of these things. Maybe they've granted accelerated hearing. You know, some things are not just straightforward as you may expect them to be. So, and then above that list, regional problems can't be solved in isolation, ascribed to Lawan. Urges political leaders to unite against nation's challenges. That will be interesting to see. What you find on the front page of Daily Times today.
Well, the Daily Trust has this investigation for you, and it's on the ports. Take a look. FG loses billions in ports revenue over stalled boats service contract. MPA fails to engage new firms after Intel's RAL. At least 58 billion naira lost in 12 months. That's a year. That's according to findings. Authority has no capacity to provide service. That's in parentheses, I believe, who's saying that. And MPA says the matter is in court. So the Daily Trust gives you an insight into something quite different, which is, of course, a revenue earner for the nation. And remember, they talk about VAT. The federal government owns the ports and states and the rest. So perhaps this is another addition to the conversation. I see under the picture, North won't play second fiddle. NEF, that's the Northern Elders Forum, and this is, of course, concerning 2023. And you have a lot of insecurity stories at the bottom strip. Students shot dead, travelers abducted in Imo, bandits kill 11 in Sokoto, Kebbi, and what town planners should do to stop flooding in cities and towns. That might interest you. The front page of the Daily Trust. Margaret.
Well, leadership has this one. 2023, Northern Elders take on Southern Governors, reject power shift. Say North will continue to lead Nigeria, stop self-help in VAT war to avoid anarchy, ACF warns. No region can solve own problems alone. That's from Lawan. It's a page 4 read, and you have a number of other stories there. PMB approves incorporation of NNPC Limited, names Ararume chairman. SANs raise concerns over PIA committee. And look at this one. Borno blackout worsens as terrorists bomb more high-tension lines. Bauchi residents flee from kidnappers. That's also on the front page of the paper. And the story on COVID-19, Nigeria bars travelers from Brazil, South Africa, Turkey. That is also on the front page of leadership newspapers. A number of other stories are still on the front page. We'll just leave it there for the paper.
Daily Independent next, then. They focus on forex scarcity. Manufacturers groan, shut down production lines. Wow. And then you see worried dollar may exchange for 700 naira by December. Say forex situation has become major driver of inflation. May cause job losses, higher poverty, increase insecurity. I mean, if this doesn't raise concern, I wonder what will. So that's what they see. But right beneath that is politics. 2023 presidency. Southern governors' position may alter PDP's zoning arrangement. Yeah, that's how point blank they are with that one right there. So it's, yeah, they've got that amongst several other dailies here, several other headlines on the front page of the paper here today. So there you go. That is it. We'll look at some of the dailies here this morning. Hey, don't forget, you could just send us a comment or two about what you think of what you saw, or maybe what you're about to hear.
Whenever these faces appear on the board, it can be expected that the occasion is one where serious issues are discussed. This is the third meeting of the Southern Governors Forum in 4 months, and this time the venue is in Enugu State. Once pleasantries are concluded, the key topics deliberated on are read out by the chairman of the forum, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State. Though not first on the list in the communique, the stance of the 16 governors on the direction of the 2023 election is a headliner.
The meeting reiterated its earlier position that the next president of Nigeria must come from the southern part of Nigeria in line with policies of equity, justice, and fairness.
Next is the matter of grazing bills and laws, which Governor Akeredolu points out is not one the South is going to let disrupt the peace in the region.
The meeting expressed satisfaction with the rate at which the states in the southern Nigeria are enacting or amending the anti-open grazing laws, which align with the uniform template and aspiration of southern governors and encourage the states that are yet to enact the law to do so expeditiously.
The recent passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill into law was applauded. However, the conversation on VAT is one the governors are adamant will have to be handled by them.
The meeting resolved to support the position that the collection of VAT falls within the powers of the states. The meeting expressed satisfaction with the handling of issues around the PIA, Petroleum Industry Act, and ownership of NNPC by the larger Nigerian Governors Forum.
A lot has been said, with a lot more hopefully taken away. How the communique is translated to a larger spectrum for possible implementation is a wait and see matter.
Welcome back. The conversation continues concerning what the Southern governors raised about the Petroleum Industry Act, the structure of NNPC, and then the big one, the presidency, where who should it go to? They think it should be zoned to the south in the interest of peace, fairness, and equity. And we've got Senator Adeshaya Ogunlewa joining us here this morning, former Minister of Works and a member of the APC. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
Well, if you say for sake of equity, fairness, and justice, how does that sound to you?
It sounds reasonable, but maybe not too practicable.
How?
Because the meeting of minds of all the governors of the South is very difficult because of so many tendencies and so many influence. And you could see one or two of them already thinking not along the line of equity, fairness. They want to protect their own survival.
Is that strange?
It's not strange. So that is politics. So it is not going to be mathematics that what they have said is cast in stone. No. As things goes on, you will see a few of them that will renege and say, no, I cannot go on with it.
So you think that their position is right?
Very right.
But moving forward, you think working it out might be the challenge?
Because I know, yes, if you have your own tactics, I have mine. What is the position of the Northerners or Mr. President? Their view is so important in any election or electoral process. So that's why we are seeing this opposition to transmission of results, electronic means, and which is the best. But will that not affect us?
How is that connected?
You want to win an election. If it is all electronic, you cannot rig, or it's difficult to rig. But if it is by writing, it is difficult you write, that is the result. Yeah, that is the difference, particularly in the collation. And the North has an advantage of being so far and distant. Like Yobe, like Borno, like Jigawa. It's so easy to manipulate figures there. Nobody is there to see.
But in terms of voting for that particular provision, I mean, it was put to vote. We saw lawmakers across board, not just lawmakers in the North, vote, overwhelmingly. We had lawmakers in the South as well vote.
They are under influence. They are not independent there. You see, what we see behind in the National Assembly has been there before. It's not what is on television. Before they come to the scene to vote, they will not allow them to vote to their conscience. They will be influenced. There are people who are interested in the outcome of anything in Nigeria, and they don't sit down. In the night, in the evening, they go to the houses of members of the National Assembly to talk to them.
Is that lobbying or something?
It's lobbying.
Something else?
It's lobbying.
Is that the right way to lobby then? Is that the right outcome that lobbying should get?
Our own democracy is so young that we cannot determine what an individual would do at the floor of the National Assembly. We cannot. Because you don't know what goes on behind him. And when he comes, you say, was it a mistake? Or he will not come. He will say, I'm attending a committee. Or, oh, I didn't come early. It's all part of the game.
But the Southern governors have to voice that it should be, the presidency should come from the South. Because, I mean, there are lots of people who thought, even without them voicing it, they expected that naturally to happen, haven't seen the trajectory of things. So did they have to voice it for people to say, well, look, this is a natural way for balance and equity?
But they should start to lobby. It is not by saying, because it is so difficult. This country is not easy to govern, okay? If you say the South, we are in the South.
Isn't it up to the South to then decide?
So
it goes to the South.
If you decide that it is Southwest, what will be the position of the Southeast?
The governor just said South first.
Yes.
So if it goes to the South, up to the South.
Fine.
Sort yourselves out.
But we are in the South.
That's the second chapter.
And that is the problem we have.
No, but we haven't gone past the first chapter because people are still arguing, why should they say that in the first place?
I agree that they can say that, but they have to work internally too to actualize it. It's not by saying alone. You now have to go to the Southeast and say, look, where do we put this presidency? If we give it to you, are you able to muster the votes to win the election? Are you going to tell your people to vote one way? If not, if you are influenced and one or two of you, which is happening
but
already. So what is going to happen? The governor of Ebonyi and the one for Imo, they may not go along with the rest.
Is it because they belong to the APC, or what reason do you think they will?
It is not a political matter when election comes. It is your own survival.
Personal interest.
Yes. How do you survive this race? Who can protect me? If I'm defeated, am I not going to go to jail?
Oh. But I thought...
Will BFCC not be after me?
One
Who
of them
can
is
protect
just,
me?
One of them is just on his first leg. Second is on his way out after doing second term.
Yes.
So they still think about who can protect me.
Yes. When I live as governor, I am vulnerable. Where will I be that I'll be protected?
You know, it's quite interesting because,
Yes.
I mean, you have laid this out for the average Nigerian watching. I mean, they see from a particular point of view thinking, okay, well, equity is that it comes to the South. But for you, I mean, looking into the minds of the political actors, you see the different factors that come to play. But in terms of lobbying, which, I mean, you think will be a challenge as well, is it going to be a big issue convincing perhaps the North or other big players that this is what equity is? Is equity different, you know, from the point of view? Isn't it generally accepted that this is the equitable way to go?
Look, my own experience and exposure, if you have an idea in Nigeria, you have to lobby the people that have the votes.
Even if it's the right thing?
Yes, even the right thing. Because their own right, it is not your own right. Your own right is, I'm a Southerner. Their own right is, I'm a Northerner. What is there for us? Okay, let's sit down. If you take the presidency, where would the vice go to? Which ministry are you going to give to us? Because there are certain critical ministries the North cannot joke with, like agriculture. You know, where their survival exists, or like petroleum. That's what they like. So, okay, we'll give it to you. So they need more conversation with the people that matters in the North, so that they can be comfortable, that they will not suffer.
So what about the rest of the country? Because nobody is, what's the word now? Because everybody's entitled to the same thing.
Fantastic. But what are you going to offer? What are you going to put on the table during an election? Election is not free. If you don't have about 100 billion naira, how can you be a president of Nigeria?
So you think that if the electronic voting and transmission of results had come through, this conversation would be different?
Yes, totally. Because it now depends on the votes, not on the manipulation. But majority of victory in Nigeria is manipulated.
I'm sure INEC might take exception to that.
I have been part of them. I have voted before, and I know what goes on during the collation. It's not easy. The person who is going to do, what about the professor that was jailed now? What happened? That just even minor. You can be giving a result when you are pronouncing on the television, you change it. It is the panel, the electoral panel, that will determine whether you are right or not, or wrong. But the figures have been pronounced.
At what point do they change these things?
During collation by figure, you just add 0.
Wow.
And it makes a difference. You say, oh, I made a mistake, but I've announced it. No, no, don't worry. Go to the tribunal. It will be rectified.
I mean, a lot of things to actually string together. But let me just speak first about campaign spending, I believe. You say for someone to be a president in Nigeria, you need to have 100 billion naira.
Yes, minimum.
Don't forget that there's a cap
no,
in
no,
the
no,
laws.
that cap is for the records.
Oh, so there's another one that is out of record.
That is not quantifiable. You give them dresses. You give them rice. You give them gifts. There's no way you are going to campaign and visit a dignitary that will not drop something. That is not a campaign.
And that's not captured, never captured in
No, it's not quantifiable. It depends on the caliber of the person. But you cannot visit them campaigning without dropping something. You are not campaigning.
So I wonder, I mean, looking at that process, do you think that can ever throw up the right form of leadership? If it's warped at that level, can we ever have the right kind of leadership?
It's the level of our development where you have 100 million Nigerians below poverty. How do they survive? All these other democracies, the people have grown out of what we have now. They have grown out of poverty, out of illiteracy. They can survive without government. But in Nigeria, everybody is still government person.
So that means, as things are presently constituted, elections in this country is not really about the people.
At all.
It's about the elites.
At all.
It's about the elites who manipulate it.
Yes. It is not the figure that you will see during collation. No. They will outsmart you. You know, it is competition. If you are a gentleman and you say, no, don't worry, the right thing will be done, then you are not a politician. They will manipulate it out of it.
Is this at all levels?
At all levels.
Local governments?
Everywhere.
So
you have to be smart.
I mean, is this why they say politics then is a dirty game? Because I've heard people say, well,
it's a smart person game. It's not dirty. You have to be smart. You have to know how to get your result.
Is that being smart or being...
Yes. Okay. We are competing. I won the election. Whether you are popular or not, I will ridicule you. I've defeated you.
No, I'm talking about the process. There's being smart. I mean, street smart. And
yes.
But manipulation is not being smart.
It's not manipulation. It's being smart.
No, you said manipulation. You've used that several
times. I said, look, you add 0. You are smart.
And claim to make mistake.
And blame, yes. But it will be rectified by the tribunal.
Yeah, but how so it then suggests as if the tribunals themselves are in on this game.
Of course.
It's supposed to be, an independent arm.
If you are not smart, you cannot win a tribunal. How? Wow. How will you win? What people see is not what happens. It is people who have been part of it that can tell you this is the actual way. The more you look, the less you see.
And I think it's quite important, getting these perspectives such that, I mean, people can sit back and say, okay, these are the areas we have issues. These are the things we need to do. I know people see the governors make that pronouncement, especially in the sun, and they say, okay, yes, that's the way to go. But when the rubber hits the road, what can the people do? I mean, in this process, you've referenced our poverty levels, but that shouldn't be quite an excuse.
Anything human being is involved is bound to make mistake. That is why we have electronic transmission now. That's why we have the computer now. Because human error cannot survive in modern days.
But the people are not in the National Assembly, sir. I mean, they're out of the National Assembly. Essentially, it's the representatives that are there. And you've said that some of them act under the influence a lot of times. So how can the people outside of the National Assembly make those changes, even though they're not directly inside the National Assembly?
It is to recall or threaten to recall their representative.
Does that really happen?
Be on their neck and tell them, this is what we want. Don't vote against this. If you do so, these are the consequences. Maybe things can change. But they will not even come home during that period. You have to contact them by phone, and their phone will be switched off. We are very busy until the outcome of the result.
So when they tell us that this is how my constituency wanted us to vote, or that there is no connection to my constituency, those are all facade.
Of course. They are being influenced. Where do you think technology cannot? No, I was in Harvard, and there's a room in Harvard. My bedroom was shown on television as far as Harvard University. So technology has gone too far to say my village. Where is my village? When America can come to Nigeria, I mean to the border between Nigeria and to take away their citizens.
Is it inside your bedroom that was shown, or the window of your bedroom?
The bedroom.
Inside your bedroom?
Yes.
Do you have cameras in your bedroom?
No, I don't know how they did it.
Okay, that's another conversation.
So their level of technology. As we are talking now, you think they are not looking at us?
Well, on TV, on DSTV,
Yeah.
and YouTube.
No. They have their own.
Interesting.
They have their own. They are about 20 years ahead of all of us. This telephone we are talking about have been in use in America how long ago? Before they say, okay, declassify it, send it to Nigeria. I mean, send it to the world. They have moved ahead now to be doing something else, unknown to us at all.
All right, let's equally go to Abuja for some perspectives as well. Mape?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us this morning Secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Imo State, Mr. Ray Emeagha. You're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, as my colleague did chronicle, the Southern governors seem to be meeting a lot of time within a short period. I'm wondering what you've made of their meetings so far.
Thank you very much. Actually, my take is that there is a tendency that is emerging in this country now. Only those with discerning minds are able and can be able and be capable to go through the system, isolate the issues, and understand actually what is happening. And what am I saying? The relationship, the marriage in Nigeria is a marriage of the master and the slave. Obviously, the Northerners are the masters, the Southerners are the slaves. But
that's your reading of it?
That is practically in every aspect, in every facet of Nigerian life. Take the petroleum industry bill, take the oil, take the VAT, take education, cut-off marks in secondary schools and universities. Every aspect of the Nigerian society favors the North. Take the creation of local governments, take the creation of states. Only Kano and Kebbi State and the adjoining state have more local governments in Nigeria than the whole of Southeast. So, but however, the good thing is that suddenly Nigerians have started to realize that this master-slave relationship cannot continue. And they have put so much pressure, are beginning to put so much pressure on their leaders that the leaders are beginning to find it more uncomfortable and difficult to exist in their localities. That is what is happening to the Southern governors. Most of these Southern governors are not speaking because they are convinced, because they mean it. They are speaking because they have realized that there is an existential threat to their leadership in their various states. Because those they are leading, those they are governing, can no longer accept to play the role of slaves in a country called Nigeria. So their constituents are putting a lot of pressure on them. And that is why in the last few months, they have met severally because of the pressures being mounted on them. I am sorry for them because I do like the former minister said, they are not likely to go through this Very soon, the powers that be, their masters will bring out their criminal charges in FCC and ICPC, show them, and they run away. Some of them are already running away because, like he said, it's a matter of survival. Some of them know that they are already governors, not by the making of their people, but that they were appointed governors. That's why they are sneaking away from this push to get Nigeria to work as one united country.
Does it really, I mean, first and foremost, the fact that you use that very strong analogy, we've had a number of analogies. I mean, we've heard of husband-wife relationship. I mean, and that depicts sometimes the inequalities that exist in a marriage. But this master-slave relationship is rather strong, don't you think? Because a slave is bought, a slave is owned, more or less. A slave has no decisions, and that cannot be the situation of the South.
Unfortunately, it is. Let me give you an example with the issue of VAT that is currently at play. Some states in the North see alcohol consumption as a sin. So they go about ensuring that alcohol is not consumed, which is okay by their faith and religion. Then in the South, they see it otherwise. They see alcohol as a beverage, something that they can take because it's not against the law to consume alcohol. And the alcohol is charged from 5% to 7.5%. And it is called VAT. And the money is now, when you charge me for consuming alcohol, 7%, if I were going to buy it at X amount, I pay higher. You collect that extra money from me and take it to the person who considers consumption as alcohol as sin, and use it to develop his estate.
You know, that's not exactly how it works.
How does it work?
Let us be very, very, I mean, there's politics.
Can I give you facts? VAT is distributed 20% on the derivation, 50% on the quality of states, and 30%, 35% on population.
Yes, but we also know that VAT on alcohol is a very tiny fraction of the basket, of the entire basket on VAT.
I am using it as an example. Let me give you an example. I won a contract in my state for road construction. And the VAT from that road construction tax is sent to the federal government and shared based on the quality of states. Is that justice? Is that fair? The other state might decide not to award contracts. And he gets part of the money I have spent on awarding contracts as VAT for the development of his state. Does that connote a relationship based on equity, justice, fair play? My daughter, my child, goes to take a national entrance examination. And he scores 120, he will not be given admission. And the person who scores 15% is given admission. Is that not a master-servant relationship?
So indeed, there are places in our development where people have noticed that, you know, certain things appear to be skewed, but that those things came in as a result. And for instance, we have federal character. We have catchment areas. All of these things were to include the people of those areas, how will I put it now, was a policy for inclusion rather than exclusion.
Yes.
Maybe somehow we have missed our way in terms of how it is practiced, but the policies themselves were not meant to be abusive in that regard.
What is what has federal character? The federal character is practiced when it favors a set of people. What is wrong?
Was federal character itself wrong in terms of when it was created? I mean, was it created on the basis to exclude people? Wasn't it created
federal
to
character
was
a product of getting certain sections of the country get what was not due to them. In a civilized country, like anywhere in the world, what should work is merit. Why is it that when it comes to appointments, federal character is no longer an issue? Is the federal government appointments in the federal government today top appointments, does it reflect federal character?
So what should, I mean...
When it comes to presidency,
the fact that
there's no federal character.
Sorry, Mr. Eme,
Yes.
I don't want this to be an argument, but what I'm trying to say is that the very idea of federal character, the very idea of inclusion should not, if it has been abused over the years in terms of how it has been implemented, that's a different kettle of fish. But in terms of the idea itself for inclusion, it's not original to Nigeria, this idea of federal character and affirmative action and getting people to, you know, go to schools and things of the sort. It's not exclusive. We didn't invent the wheel.
Yes.
But, you know, in terms of how it has been practiced, yes, there have been questions in terms of how we have practiced our federation and in terms of how we've implemented it. But, you know, the analogy, and I think that's what I was trying to bring out, the analogy of master-slave, you don't agree that it is too strong a description?
It might sound strong on national television. It might sound strong to certain sections, those who are benefiting. But if you go to the rural communities, if you go to the bars, if you go to small places, that is exactly how they see the union called Nigeria today. Because all the actions, all the tendencies go to suggest that unless I decree, let us take the issue of anti-grazing. A woman goes to plant cassava, yam, and he cannot reap her sweat because a cattle comes in and eats up all the crops. And the people are saying, ranch, you are insisting that writing or not, that animals must continue to go around to eat up other people's crops. So the animal or the owner of the animal is not the master of the person who, the farmer whose crops are being eaten up. And if the person whose crops are being eaten up is dares to resist, he is arrested by DSS, police, and imprisoned. So, you see, these niceties, this way of putting things so that we'll be seen as one united, until we begin to say things the way they are, see them the way they are, accept that there is complete, that injustice has become part of the national milieu, national psyche, that to be a victim of these projects is no longer going to be discussed. Until we begin to accept that, when we accept it, we do introspection, we look at it and say, okay, let us correct them. But if you continue to say nice things, oh, fairness and equity, unity is not negotiable, these are the things that are fanning the embers of disunity, agitation for separation. I tell you, no group of people genuinely want to separate and go away from this country. But they are saying that the Constitution of Nigeria is a fraud in itself. Look at let us take the fact. The VAT decree was made by the military, whereby they took away sales tax that is usually collected by local governments and made it a federal law. And they went back to say that all decrees made by the military are now acts of the National Assembly. Section 315 of the Nigerian Constitution today converted all military decrees to acts of the National Assembly. So, we didn't make the laws. The National Assembly was not in place at that time. But all the draconian decrees made by the military have become imported into our Constitution as a product of the national acts of the National Assembly. Is that fairness? Is that equity? So, until we begin to until we sit down and identify and agree that this, what we're operating today as a constitution of Nigeria, all these skirmishes you see all over the place. Look at the Electoral Act, like the Prime Minister was saying. How on earth can anybody in this age and time talk about manual transmission of results?
Well, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts. We have to take a break at this moment. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Please stay with us. Well, Mr. Ray Emenya is still with us as the Secretary of the PDP in Imo State, and we're talking about the resolutions of the Southern governors. But only recently, yesterday, we saw a response of some sort by the Northern Elders Forum, saying that they would like that it doesn't matter where this presidency comes or goes to, that they're not going to be bullied, more or less, into supporting you know, into supporting a southern president. I don't know what your thoughts were when you saw that particular video, but you have also said that what the southern governors are asking for is along the lines of fairness. Now, in terms of the fact that this could now eventually go to the north, conversations of this have started from your party, the People's Democratic Party, because they maintain that since Nigeria came back to the Fourth Republic, that the presidency has been held largely by Southerners within your party, and that if it's going to, you know, if we're going to be talking about equity, justice, and fairness, it should be going to the north if the PDP is going to be fielding a candidate come 2023. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it's unfortunate that at every point in time, people you expect to take a broad view of issues and the Nigerian project will, when it concerns them, become myopic. And just like I mentioned, Section 315 of the Nigerian Constitution converted all decrees made by the military to acts of the National Assembly. Okay, take Nigeria back. You are talking about since this current republic. How many presidents, military presidents came from the north? How many came from the south? Were they not presidents of Nigeria? All the actions and inactions they undertook. Are we not? Are they no longer legitimate? So why would you now say...
But the people had largely no control over that. Well, it wasn't a democracy. It was an autocracy.
Yeah, but there were beneficiaries. The states created that has created lopsidedness in the in parity in Nigerian political space was created by the military. The local governments were created by the military. The VAT we are talking about by the military. Universities were opened by the military. Are we going to wish all that away as if they never happened? They did happen, and there are realities that when you take the toll of the number of Nigerian sections that have ruled Nigeria, they not have had it the most. And if in any case, we are talking of a country called Nigeria, why should we be discussing where the presidency should come from? Naturally, it should come from we should have a president of Southeast extraction. But let me tell you the truth, and I have engaged quite a lot of northern elders. They are frustrated. They have suddenly come to realize that by 2023, the 8 years of APC under the present administration has been most unfair and unfortunate for the North. They've lost virtually everything they have gained in the previous administrations. And they have also realized that this current government has been so, has raised the bar in terms of marginalization, in terms of empowering one particular ethnic group against the others. And you know the issue of 95%, 97 for those who voted and 5% those who did not vote. You know the issue of a dot in a circle. They don't have come to realize that if they are afraid that if power shifts to the South might also go through the same route of marginalizing the North. And because of that, and they have also realized that they have really not benefited much. They are worse off. Their women can no longer go to farms. In the past, in this country, the crime rate in the South used to be higher than that in the North. But today, it's either parity or more in the North. The schools are no longer happening. The universities are being invaded daily. So they are afraid, and naturally so, that they may be paid back in their own coins. But that shouldn't be the case. When you are talking about merit, you want a Nigerian president that has merit, that is qualified. There is no state in Nigeria today. There's no geopolitical zone in the South. There is no way that you go to the Southeast and you can't find the best. What I expect the Northern elders to say is that Southeast, APC, go to Southeast and get your candidate. PDP, go to Southeast and get your candidate. We weigh the two and choose the best for Nigeria. That is a product of equity. That's a product of federal character. That's a product of zoning. You don't remember federal character when it suits your purpose, and jettison it when it doesn't suit your purpose.
It's instructive that the southern governors haven't specified the specific zone from which, you know, the president should come from. They are just insisting that it comes to the south.
Yeah, but because that is the way things are done in this country. The zoning for presidency in this country between the north and the south. It's when you zone it either the north and the south that geopolitical south or north will now meet among themselves if it were possible to say it is zoned to this place or is zoned to the other place. But in the case of Southeast, it's a peculiar situation. The South have tasted presidency. The Southwest have tasted presidency. It's only the Southeast that have neither tasted or come close to it.
The North Central also makes a case.
Yeah, but they have had their turns in the North. We're talking about if you zone it to the South. Of the three federating zones in the South, it's only the Southeast that is here to have a
no, what we're talking about in terms of, if you were to look at the zoning specifically, in terms of regional zones, so to speak, the North Central makes a case that they have not had it.
Yes, when it returns to the North, the next, if we zone to the South, and South says, for equity, where Southwest you have had your turn, South-South you have had your turn, now Southeast take your turn. It goes back to the North. The North should also have the courage to say, Northwest, Northeast, Northwest, South, North Central, not yet, so it's your turn. You see, democracy is a government by the people for the people. All right. But every democracy plays according to peculiarities. And the peculiarity of Nigeria is that unless you begin, because of the multiplicity of ethnic nationalities, unless you begin to appreciate the fact that I am Igbo man, I'm a Nigerian. You're a Hausa man, you're a Nigerian. What is due to me, you give it to me. If you begin to say, make it go round, the next person will be assured that it will soon get his turn and he'll be patient. But if you continue to lord it over him, over and over, and mind you, the youths are no longer taking this kindly anymore. We and me and my age mates, we don't know how to control the youth. I don't know what my son does on matters like this. When the NSAS was on, our children were at it. We didn't know. We were opposed to it. But they said that is not your problem. Your generation has failed us. We want to take our destiny into our own hands. There is danger in this country. And I want to use the opportunity to tell every leader, whether you're a Northerner, a Southerner, or anywhere in this country, you must appreciate the fact that all the inequalities that existed in this country during our generation will not be tolerated by the younger generation.
Let's flip this now to Lagos now and see how our guests will receive that particular advice. Gentlemen.
Oh, yes, thank you very much indeed. In addition to that, Senator, lots of people listening just wondering, they can't just sit back, fold their arms, and just watch things go the way it has always been going. There has to be a solution, a way out. What would you suggest?
Education, more work for people, lift the human beings above poverty line so that he can determine what he wants to do with his life. But a poor person can hardly think the way you are thinking. It is what is there for me that we'll be thinking about. So we need to do a lot of human resource development in Nigeria. We must give people employment. You see, my own, I don't prefer democracy to national development. There are so many countries in the world. There is no democracy there. But there is development.
What do they have?
No, because we spend too much money on democracy. 50% of all our national wealth go on democracy.
So what system do they have, even if it's not about
like China.
Participation of the people?
No, like China, like Saudi Arabia, like North Korea. They don't, but they develop their country without democracy.
We know those are some may describe them as extremes, but even in Saudi Arabia, we see that changes now. They're changing.
When your people are ripe for the change, but our own now is all voting, and after the voting, what comes up?
So let me get this right. Is it the people, Nigerians, that are not ripe for democracy, or the leaders that are being elected are the ones not delivering the dividends of democracy to the people?
The leaders that are being elected suppress the voters.
So it's not the people now, it's the leaders.
It's not the people, but it's their policy that will determine.
So it will be the same thing if you try this other system that you're suggesting.
Yes, but they must concentrate more on the people. Okay, how can you say for somebody to enter university from Zamfara, he can score 2%? What will he write to have 2%? to somebody who has 280. Are they in the same country? Are we not going to develop that person with 2% to a level that he can reason himself? What will you write that will be 2%? Common entrance examination into unity schools.
I know the Kaduna State Governor has also spoken in that line, saying that this should be jettisoned. Let there be, level playing field, as it were. But, people go back in time and say some of these measures were put in place to solve that challenge of education, which you have referenced in the first place, ensure that, people in that region that hitherto had been, put aside when it comes to education, get access to education. So if that goes back to what it was before, don't you think we'll now fall back into even a deeper pit of uneducated citizens?
Look, if it depends on your policy. If your policy is production, want to produce, want to have factories, how can factories be folding up and you are happy? Where will people work? If you grew up in Lagos, you know that there are certain areas where we have so many factories, but they are all gone. What happened? Why? Why should they go? Some countries are adding more to their factories. We are losing factories. And it is not something, and it is election that we concentrate on. We remember election. We don't remember production, factory. Where are these factories leaving us? What must we do to retain this factory so our people can have employment?
And speaking about that, since, there's usually so much that goes on behind the scene that people don't see beyond what's on TV, do you think there's a lot of backstory about this VAT war, as some describe it, this back and forth about who should be collecting VAT?
Look, the drafter of the Constitution did not envisage consumption tax. So, they forgot to put it in the exclusive legislative list. Item 58 and 59 is clear, capital gains, But item 9 on the concurrent list now said State House of Assembly can legislate on taxes and fees. So that is the confusion. It is the responsibility of the state to legislate, not the national, under the Constitution, on consumption tax. So what we are seeing now is just the first stage that has gone to the Court of Appeal. To now say the laws passed by states is against the Constitution, then you have to prove that. How would they prove it?
I wonder if the drafters really forgot something that big. You've seen how big a controversy this has been. So do you think they forgot, or, this is just how things are meant to be?
If they envisage it, that's why they are saying put it there now. Because it is an embarrassment to just wake up one day that some states will not collect VAT. That's how are they going to survive? So if they knew that a day would come, and this is just the beginning of restructuring, it will happen more like electricity. How can you say everybody must rely on one transmission line?
But if they manipulate the elections, as you say, so much, what's the guarantee that they'll just let this one fly like that?
No, you have to change the Constitution and put it there. And you need 2/3 of the states, which you cannot get, to change the Constitution. And no state would leave that power and give it to the federal. No.
Which is why I think, again, things are just perhaps happening the way they ought to happen.
Yes.
Because these taxes are generated in the states. But, when Chemelin talked about the background to this, you've been involved in Lagos.
Yes.
Lagos has been, I think, for as long as I can remember, has always clamored for this to happen. So, for how long, really, how far back has this been an issue? And how much pushback did you get in those days when you perhaps brought this up and the rest?
The way the nation is structured, the South has very, very limited opportunity or capacity to upstage the North. And it was deliberate. I've argued with them. They say local government is our own derivation. I say, what do you mean? Okay, you are talking about derivation when you generate tax from the South. But when it comes to distribution of that revenue, we have an advantage because we have more local government than you. So it's a tragedy that when you do consumption in Lagos and it goes as VAT for distribution, people are talking about Kano State. No, Kanu 40 local government will get, while Lagos will get 20. That is the truth. So the 35% going to local government, Kanu State will get 40. Lagos will get 20. Bayelsa State will get 8.
Is that why Lagos tried to come up with, these CDAs?
Of course. The entire Southeast, the total number of local government is not up to 3 states in the north. So look at what they are losing in terms of, revenue distribution. Revenue collection is easy. But when you now want to distribute it, the local government that are in the north, they are far in excess. So they get their own derivation from there. You will get your derivation 13%. But what they get as their own derivation is massive.
Do you think the federal government, because I know there have been different sides to this argument, will the federal government lose? You've worked with the federal government. Will the federal government lose if states were to collect their own taxes?
It's not the federal government that is the problem. It's the states. The federal government will lose nothing. But the states that derive a lot of revenue from VAT. Katsina has 37 local government. So whether they work or not, they get 37. Their local government will get 37 portion of the allocation, while Bayelsa will get 8.
I think also this conversation has largely centered for some people around North versus South, and clearly, you've seen a lot of conversations. This is, how dangerous that could be, especially if some people take it on board the wrong way. So how do you propose this North with South conversation happens? Is it at the state government level? Should there be some form of mediation? Is it at the party level, such that this does not blow out to be region this versus region that?
It's leadership. The presidency can call for a national conference on this issue, because it will never go away. And say, okay, we know we are cheating you by creating more local government in our area, by allocating funds through to landmass. Niger State is more than the Southwest in area, one state. So when they want to do revenue allocation, they use landmass. So look at the advantage there. They use local government. Look at the advantage there. They use population. So our own advantage is hard work, education. That is the South. We can survive without the federal government. So the harder we work, the more we give them money.
Just one more thing.
To share.
One more thing before we go. Tell us about, because now you see a lot of conversation around North Central, Middle Belt. That's another factor that we don't seem to take into major consideration. But that changes a lot of things when you talk about the North, doesn't it?
The concept of a North Central person is not. It can have differences. But when it comes to picking between the South and the North, they will pick the North. They understand their language more than the Southern language.
Isn't that changing from what we see with Taraba?
You need to do a lot
Benue,
more by educating them for them to change. I have been part of them. Their concept is we are from the North. To now say, no, we are not from the North, we are from the South, will be very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Well, that will be interesting to see. Very interesting perspective. We do thank you very much indeed, Senator Adeshaye Ogunlewe, former Minister of Works and a member of the APC. Back to you, Makwe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chamberlain. We still have Mr. Emeagha here with us, and I'd like to get your closing comment. How do you see things panning out politically ahead of 2023? We see that your party is yet to announce zoning of its members, but your national convention is just around the corner. We've also seen that of the APC as well, even though I doubt very strongly that you can comment on that. But within your own political party, how do you see matters developing, especially when you notice that the person who's heading the zoning committee is from your own zone? That's the governor of Enugu State, Governor Ugwuanyi.
Yes, we have high hopes. There's a lot of optimism in the air. I know PDP has a way of sorting out their matters amicably. We are looking towards a national convention where we will elect the best of our best. And we have the zoning committee. Our prayers is that the right thing should be done and the presidency should be zoned to the southeast. How be it? The lopsidedness of, because when you go to the zoning committee, you will also have more people from a certain section of the, more than the others. So in the southeast, we have only 6 states. Other zones have 5 states. Others have 6 or 7. So this will also come to play in taking decisions because it's a democratic process that will emerge. But how be it, whatever happens, what is important is that Nigerians have come to realize that that what has happened to us in the last few years under APC has been a disaster. And it is important, and I want to use the opportunity to call the President of Nigeria to step up and encourage the fact within the remaining time available to him to look back at this constitution. This, for me, is a constitution, because all this issue of VAT that I'm missing is because it was not conceived as a Nigerian constitution. It was done by a few military top heads at that time from a certain section of the country. And we are still reeking from the injustices of the past. So we need to amend the constitution. And we need a leader that will stand forthright, not interested in regions and where he comes from, to amend this paper we have called Nigerian Constitution, which is fueling discontent, which is fueling injustice, because everything that is happening in this country, including the zoning, are products of the injustices foisted on us by the military using the Nigerian Constitution. And it's unfortunate that our leaders from the South, like I said, they are all scared to even where I come from. Even my state governor does not attend South-Eastern Governors meeting. You can imagine that. You can imagine that Umahi is no longer attending. Because but the APC brothers from the Southwest and South-South are attending. So it also creates a problem for agitation for the presidency of Southeast. Even our own brothers are scared to their wits for standing up for what is right. I know that PDP will do the right thing, but what is most important to us in Nigeria today is that we come out of this mess. Look at the level of debt. Can you imagine what will happen to this country? Nigeria currently spends about 90% of our income on servicing debts.
You interpret what you have interpreted as fear. Others might say that it might be in their own political calculations or their own political interest.
Yes, the man in you the man in you dies when you are accused to injustice. The man in you becomes nothing when, because of my own personal interest, because that is what it is all about. Those who put me to power, I don't want to offend them.
No. Political interest. I mean, like Dave Umahi, we do know that he has now since left the PDP. He is now in the fold of the APC. But don't forget that even though the southern governors are meeting together, regardless and irrespective of their parties, it's not been smooth sailing all through. Remember only recently that there was a strong criticism from the governor of Rivers State to the governor of Ebonyi State. He's had to respond, to that criticism. But these are matters that could be as a result of maybe interpersonal relationships.
Yes, but you are really
that are feeling this. Maybe he's. And these are other reasons than just adducing to his non-attendance of the meeting.
Well and good, but some people elected you.
Did they elect them to be attending Southern Governors?
They elected them to do what is right. For instance, the governor of my state, the Southern governor said there should be that every state should pass anti-open grazing law. My governor withdrew and said there was nothing like the governor of Imo State said there was nothing like open grazing. In 2006, under the government of Article Udenwa, Honorable Member Oliver got a bill which was unanimously passed and assented by the governor at that time. Imo State has anti-open grazing law passed by the House of Assembly. And for reasons, inexplicable reasons, like we are saying now, maybe because of personal reasons, the governor of Imo State said there is no such law. And the crops of women, widows, are being eaten up daily by cattle. Who protects the people?
If
Is it about, should I continue to talk about myself, my political future?
If the law is already in existence, do we need the governor to implement the law?
The governor is the chief security officer of the state. The law provides that the security agencies shall apprehend those who have violated this law, and that those who have violated this law will pay compensation and fine to the crop owner. It is the chief security officer who will now get the police to enforce the law. So if he doesn't even believe in the law himself, who will implement it? Is it me? I can't. And the police listen to the governor of the day, who says if the governors have the will. We are not saying that people should not rear cattle. What we are saying is, as the Igbos will say, let the cat perch, let the eagle perch. Let the cattle rearer rear his cattle, earn income, and feed his family. But it should not be at the expense of the cassava or maize person or planter. It shouldn't be at his own instance. He is taking out a life to train his children, to feed his family. And the governor of that particular state, who is the #1 law officer, who is under the Land Use Act decree, the governor owns all the land in the state. So it is the governor's responsibility to protect the farmer whose crops are being eaten by cows. And if the governor fails to do that, he is not serving the people. And he will not do that because those who put him there want open grazing to continue.
You keep saying those who put him there. I mean, the Supreme Court was the law of the land that ruled on that particular matter. But I think that, you know, it's a fine place to leave it, Mr. Mayor. We'll see how matters eventually pan out within the PDP, and we'll also see how they pan out within the APC. The national working committees or the national conventions of both parties are about to take place very soon, and we'll see just how matters eventually go on politically in the political parties, and of course having an effect on Nigeria as a whole. But we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Mr. Ray Emaya is the secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Imo State, and he's speaking to us here in our studios in Abuja. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
West of the country, we also saw yesterday an attack on the INEC local government office yesterday in Enugu, and we've also seen attacks. Unknown gunmen were said to have invaded the city of Onitsha yesterday, shooting sporadically, and at some point a police officer was said to have lost his life. What are we doing with regards to security? Because it does look like in some areas we're making gains, in other areas we're not doing so well. The question remains, what's causing this lopsidedness? What's causing the fact that we're seeing security seeming to, you know, get its acts together in one area, but it would seem that other areas are not enjoying that security as they ought to. We have this morning with us Mr. Lawrence Alobi, who is a former commissioner of police in the Federal Capital Territory. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm sure that, you know, you were happy to see, at least, I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, but we also saw some returnees in Katsina who had been kidnapped for over 5 months, finally returned to their families yesterday. And, you know, we've also seen the report in terms of the concerted efforts being, you know, put together now by the different security agencies to combat banditry and kidnapping, particularly of school children in the northern part of the country. However, the southeast, which we had seen a lull in activities, seem to be experiencing a new rise in terms of activities of insecurity. The Enugu office, local government office of INEC, was burnt down yesterday. We saw that on the news, and we also saw you know, gunmen, you know, attacking meetings and killing people in the process, even in Kogi as well. There are reports of insecurity there. I do not know what your reading of the situation is, where it seems that we seem to be getting it together in one place, and in other places it looks like we're yet to really put a lead on things that are happening there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Security is concern of everybody, both the government, the people, and the security agency themselves. And, there's no crime-free society from a sociological point of view. the point again is that how proactive are we? What lessons have we learned from past experience? You know, there are so many factors that abate or promote insecurity, which sometimes are institutional, sometimes even the government also caused by government, sometimes also the government, the citizens' passive attitude, insensitivity to security, what is happening in the environment, you know, assisting the police or the security agency. There are so many factors. But you see, again, majorly is that the police, which is the core, which is the lead agency, which is the principal agency in policing and law enforcement, has not been empowered to be able to effectively deliver on its mandate. In terms of today, we have about over 200 million Nigerians. The police is less than 500,000 staff officers are men. And there are wastages every month. People are being retired, people are dying in the course of duties and so forth. And they know how many years and they know recruitment. Some divisions don't have manpower again.
The police said they're already remedying that they had the mandate of the president to recruit, I think, about 10,000 every year.
Have they recruited? Have they recruited? It's not just, you see, let's walk our talk. They've recruited. That gap is there. And policemen suffer. In fact, no policeman works less than 12 hours a day. And then he's not given extra one kobo for doing that. So like I said, there's so many factors. One, again, in terms of training, human capital development. It's lack of funding. The police is not well funded. You see, funding is based on need. Budgeting is based on need. If the police now give them about, this is what we need. For instance, said, Metropolitan Division require 10 vehicles. That's we need 10 vehicles. But the government provided, as a DPO and area commander, I had a staff car. But now CPs have to buy the cars, private cars, to make them staff cars. It is as bad as that. You see? So, again, when I was a junior officer, even as a police constable, I was in a mobile. When we got for duties, they give us ration and give us allowances. But now it doesn't exist any longer. No motivation, no welfare. And funding is on the lowest ebb.
Well, it looks like it's the same old problem. You haven't heard. I mean, I think it was I'm trying to remember where he visited right now. The IGP visited a particular state in recent times, and while he visited the people, he talked about welfare. He said, there is nothing which you're going to tell me about the police which I do not know about. In terms of your welfare, we're looking after that. We're going to do something. I think it was Kwara. He visited Kwara State recently, and talking to the men there, he said that there's nothing that they're going to tell him that he doesn't know about, that he's already handling a lot of the issues which they're facing. Are you not getting reports that indeed these things are getting better? There's steps being taken?
These are all political statements. Let's walk our talk.
The IGP was being political?
No, because it has been saying we're handling, they know this problem. He said he knows the problem. Has it solved the problem? The government developed the political way to solve the problem? In terms of funding, in terms of equipment. Technology today, policing and law enforcement is technically driven. And knowledge-based. Knowledge-based that have to build the capacity of them through training. No funding for training and no equipment. So most police command don't have communication system. Well, at least for one local government to communicate, it doesn't exist. Well, these are all the handicaps of policing. It was that the IG would normally say, yes, we're doing, but that is reassuring the casualty. Reassuring the victim of the problem. That you have to reassure you. Of course, it has to build confidence. You have to make feel confidence, build their confidence. That don't feel that all is lost, all hopes are lost. You have to build their confidence. But then, how has that been achieved? The government developed the capacity, the willpower to do the right thing. You see, talk about police reform. Police reform the government has a role. The police leadership has a role. The citizens have a role. The government has a role in the sense that the government must know that the police are effectively funded. Section 14B of the Constitution provides that security and welfare of the citizens is the primary purpose of government. And Mr. President, all the governors and everybody has sworn on oath of office that they will uphold and defend the Constitution. Then Section 14B, is that being upheld? Is that actually being enforced? No. Police internal security is key and central. Internal security is the type of security today. Again, no lacuna.
But in spite of the challenges that remain, we've seen some progress in certain areas. How are they able to achieve this progress? And why does it seem like they're not able to make as much progress in other areas?
They're making progress in the sense because of commitment. You see, when you work with a passion, you don't mind whether you have the resources. You want to put in your best effort to achieve the best result. That is commitment. That's dedication. And the police officers,
police officers are committed in one area, but not as committed in other areas?
No, what I'm saying, they're committed, generally, they're committed. But it must all depend on the challenges that is confronting them. In terms of equipment, in terms of logistics, for instance, now in the police station, there are no vehicles to respond to distress calls. There's a problem of manpower need. Okay, then how will the policeman, what would the DPO do? DPO will not bring his wife or children come and police the division. It's based on the manpower you deploy based on the manpower he has. So that's why the issue of recruitment should be taken seriously and urgently too. Not just we are doing. The leadership of, you see leadership is not followership. The political of the police, that the leadership has to be one. You have to have a vision. You have to have courage. You have a listening ear. You have to concern about the welfare of the men. As a senior officer, when we go out on operations, we are given our allowances. We are given dry ration. But now it doesn't exist. 2 years ago, let me tell you a story. Officer went on 12 who was on course in the Staff College Jaws. An officer sent me a message, my text message, that, sir, we know you can do this for us. We have been on course, other people are being paid, we're not being paid, and so forth. I told the text to the IG. I showed it to the IG. IG immediately called the CP budget, who is now DIG intelligence for first CID. Look at this. I directed them, they were paid the next day. You know, so a leader must also have a listening ear. Leader must be concerned about how do the people feel.
How did that happen? I mean, so for that to have happened with immediate alacrity, as they like to say, it does mean that the funds were available. Was there a system within the police that was holding the allowance of those people?
Like I said, leadership is not followership. Leader must be committed to the needs of the men. Welfare of the men, motivate them. And then leadership not just leadership is all about controlling power or being powerful or being controlling what power and so forth. It is he who impacts on the people, he who empowers the people. Transformational leadership that at least can add value.
What I'm saying is, he shouldn't have taken a call to the IG or a text message to the IG. There ought to be processes within.
No, because I was concerned.
Indeed, no. What I'm saying,
I was concerned,
and we appreciate that. Yes. But what I'm trying to say is, when men are sent on course, for instance, it should be taken for granted.
That is sensitivity in terms of the welfare of the men. And again, maybe the allowance were not provided. But when I went to the IG, he called the CP budget to his office. I went there on my own. That was about 2 years ago. I retired 2007. I went on last service at CPFCT. And that, you see, again is that when we should be sensitive to what we can do to add value, to how to contribute, how to solve problem-solving approach to issues. I went to solve a problem. I had no interest there. But I see that I'm serving retired, my commissioner of police. It's my constituency. And that's why the more doing to I can, with my power, to assist and contribute towards the betterment of the force.
No, the problem I'm asking is, what would have been responsible for somebody not paying these officers their monies? The monies that is due to them.
Yes, it happens. It depends again. Maybe the officer was not released to him. Because sometimes, like even when you go to the National Assembly, when money is being budgeted, release is a problem, or approval release is a problem. So if it's not funds are not released, what can you do? Because
this is something that is happening right within the rank and file of the police. Yeah. You know, oftentimes when we talk about provisions of funding and what have you, we're always talking to bodies outside of the police force. Right. Within the police force, you would think that there will be a little more empathy, there will be a little more how will I put it now? There will be a little more understanding of the challenge, of the general challenges.
Concern.
Confronting the police, and so there will be a lot more effort within the police itself to manage whatever meager resources are there for the benefit of everyone. Yeah. It doesn't seem that is the situation.
No, that's why I'm saying leadership, the quality and capacity of leadership also is important. Leadership must have vision, must have courage. Leadership that must be concerned about people that is result-oriented, leadership that is goal-oriented. For me, I don't take excuses on what I want is result. So the point is that officers, leadership of the force, or not only the force, all agencies, all institutions should have empathy, compassion, the welfare of their men, motivation. Because that's how we make, like my people, they said, if a hunter is stand by the dog can catch a monkey. A monkey cannot climb a tree, but it is that motivation I give to the officer. Officer prepared to give his life. But when you put in your best effort, and at the end you are nobody cares about you, nobody cares about your families, nobody cares about your. Look, I go to and see the police barracks. Go and see. I went to Calabar. I saw area commander working in a container. That is unacceptable. You don't create institution, create offices without putting the necessary infrastructures on ground. How can officer will take a statement under a tree? Why? Provide the necessary infrastructures. You need to expand. Provide the necessary infrastructures. So, I know the IG issue of funding is a problem, but the government itself should very, very concerned. In fact, the governments of this country have not done well. Have been unfair to the police. I'm telling you, not putting away sentiment, putting away any emotion. It is because the police is a principal agency. And again, one lacuna is that we don't have a national policing and law enforcement strategy in the country. The police now is like all common affairs. The police should have a national policing strategy and law strategy. They will give a focal leadership direction and what should be done. Even other services who are doing police functions, they will know what they should be doing. But now we don't have solid leadership, right?
Well, let's quickly flip this to Lagos. I know that my colleagues have questions for you, gentlemen.
Yeah, since the manpower, funding, logistics, these are all recurring challenges with the police in the country at the moment. So would it be out of place to then reconsider reorganizing the security architecture of this country such that we'll have federal, state, and possibly local government police, since there are states, a number of them, who want to fund the police and get them equipped so that they can perform optimally?
Yeah, the point again is I've been this clamor for state policing. But for me, we've not evolved to that point. You see, we've not been able to develop that consciousness, Nigerian consciousness, national consciousness, where we see every Nigerian as one of us, and we need to serve bringing our best interests of Nigeria. We are ethnic, parochial sentiment, sometimes even religious sentiment. For instance, if you make a police now, maybe a state police, maybe state police in a particular state, a crime committed from a different state, maybe from a different state. Let me say, for instance, somebody committed a crime, from an Igbo man or somebody from the east committed a crime in the east against someone from Kano, and the suspect is in Kano, and you go to arrest him. The police, they may not cooperate with you, because they tell you he's not the kind, But with the federal police, the police officer can anywhere have power to arrest any part of the federation, so far as it is within the law, committing an offense within his view. So if we evolve to that state, I know, like in the United States of America, we have UK, we have municipal policing, county policing, state policing in the US, but then we've not been able to develop that consciousness. Like Americans believe in America. Americans believe in America. But Nigerians don't believe in Nigeria. We believe in ethnic loyalties to our ethnic group. Loyalty to our tribal group. And that is
it comes across
why the national orientation.
If I could just jump in, when these kind of points are made, these arguments are put out there, it comes across as though we're incapable of addressing our own challenges, but that's not the case. Every part of this country will have very intelligent people who can address these concerns. All we need to do, what are the challenges here? Because you may assume as though it is the same kind of people, with due respect to them, that are in the police now that will form part of those that will make up the state and local government police. But it will not be. It will be a different kind of people that will be in those areas, and they will be able to carry out some of these things. So, and they things that we should debate, put out those concerns, make laws. There'll be guiding laws and principles. So that shouldn't be a problem.
No, I agree with you. That shouldn't be a problem. But the point is that political control, unnecessary control by the political class on police is the problem. It is the same policemen that will serve Nigerians who are going to be there. But the point is that how free is a police officer to perform his function, perform his duties, right? In 1983, I was a DSP. I was DTO in Aba and in Kano. That election, general election in August 1983. And somebody came to the police station that some thugs came to his house with guns and attacked him in his house and so forth. And my DPO said, okay, Lawrence, follow him and go and see. When I got there, They found out that we saw three revolver pistols, 36 ammunition, and four bottles of acid in the car. He said the boys brought them here. They had been detained. He brought the boys. The boys said, this car was hired during an election on Saturday. With the man, it was damaged by talks from this party, so party, and they came to ask him to retrieve that car. He detained them. And the man, after interrogation, the man said, no, it's not. Then afterwards, one big man came, one big man top shot. Then it was MPN and NPP. Came there and said, Lawrence, what do you want? Take 25,000. Write report that this boy owned. I said, if these boys were your sons, and I'm going to ride and do this, will you be happy? I said, God is an all-seeing God. I walk with the fear of God. And so I arrested him. I took him to the station. I called my ACCID, and we were detained. Later now, the case was taken from people say, oh, Alobi, you are finished. You are MPN, they will do this, they will transfer you. Nothing happened to me because then there was no unnecessary political control on policing. But today now, the unnecessary political control. So the point is that our politicians have not been able to decide themselves. They have not been able to make that they are there to render service. They are there to make sure that for all citizens around within that state, not necessarily party interest or ethnic interest. But we develop that consciousness. Of course, we should do that because our centralization too is not too good. Sometimes it takes bureaucratic bottleneck and so forth. So I think it is good. But when we develop that consciousness, when our politicians will give the police free hand to do their functions without necessary control. And that man, later who did that, he came back to thank me. That big man said, Lawrence, I appreciate your principle and your courage. A police leader must have courage and conquer fear. Do the right thing. If you do the right thing, even that person that you did the right thing, even if it's against his interest, you come out to appreciate it because his conscience will break him. So leaders we should all learn to do the right thing and do the right thing, have courage to do the right thing at all times. Not mind whose ox is God.
Absolutely. Well said. But I just want to go back to something you said earlier, and this concerns the unfair treatment which you referenced by governments to the police. To properly contextualize it, is there any sector, ministry, or any area that the government has treated fairly compared to the police in successive governments, that is?
You know, these are those facts that are very known to everybody. We can see it. Look at, for instance, in terms of salary. Let me ask, why should, if I made a 2-1, I made a 2-1 in Soka, Social Anthropology. My mates went to the Central Bank NNPs, they were paid double my salary in the police. Why should that be that? Why should it be so? Rather, my job is more risky than anybody who works in CBN and NNPC. But it is because of that class. Oh, and again, our leadership of the force should fight for the welfare of their men, not just accepting anything that is being given to you. For me, it is my men. I need to be motivated. We need to take care of my men. So the government, as I said, it is a natural fact they have been unfair to the police. Right. I can tell you, as a DPO, I had a staff car. As a commander, I had a staff car. But now CPs have to be buying their own cars to make use of staff cars. That is not ridiculous.
So in terms of solutions now,
some stations don't have patrol vehicles. Don't have patrol vehicles.
So in terms of solutions,
and the distress call, I cannot respond to distress call.
Right. So if you were to suggest, solutions, for example, would you say that then a police DPO or at a certain level should earn the same thing as perhaps a staff of the NNPC, which you referenced, or other government agencies? Do you think that will solve the problem?
No, the point is that police salary is the poorest ever. The poorest ever. I'm asking, because look at it in terms of risk. The risk of the policeman is 24, is on duty 24/7. I would be like one time when I was in service, in the FCT, there was an incident where a vehicle got burnt around near this hotel along the airport road. And at about 4:30 a.m., I left my wife on the bed and I went there. Some person who were burnt on that car. I had to leave my wife to respond. But can an NPC man leave his office at 4 a.m. to go and attend to a problem? Not at all. So, or CBN or this and so forth. But the policeman risks his life and time. He is alienated from the society, alienated from his family, because he might not even have time for his family, because 24/7 is being called upon to render service. but then it's not being appreciated. Rather, look at what happened, policemen being killed, for what? And the citizens are the prime beneficiary of a safe and secure environment. A good effective policing is the citizens that will benefit when there's effective policing. And when the policing is not effective, the citizens will suffer. So therefore, incumbent on the citizens to cooperate and assist the police in ensure that they perform optimally. And again, the police should have to do something, which I need to recommend to the IG. You see, when I was PRO in the old Anambra State, as when I was a PRO in 1988, I had a program on NTA. Then Mr. Okaro was the director of programs. Every 30 minutes, we have a program where we police on the public. Through that program, I was able to endear the police to the public. Police officers were not paying money for public transport in Enugu then. So the police can also carry out a program. And the radio NTAs, all the various media houses can they have social corporate responsibility to assist the police, carry out programs to educate the citizens on their role in promoting peace and security. This is crime prevention advocacy. And to let the citizens know, when they know that they have a role to perform, but now they believe they have no role. They just believe there to be given security, and that they have no role. Life is based on principle of reciprocity. Life is all about service. How can I contribute? It's our society, our country. We need to all do everything. Everybody, the government, the police management, police officers, and the citizens should all collectively contribute towards a better police force. And again, the IG too should other security agencies should learn from the function of what the Chief of Defense Staff is doing. Chief of Defense Staff is going around the whole country, of the zones in the country, to appeal for support and assistance of retired officers. Because right now, mentorship is lacking in the police force. No more mentorship. And to fill that gap, I think the IG and management team should ensure how to collaborate with retired officers. Because you don't buy experience from anywhere. These young officers who are now at the top there, they don't have the experience capacity, I need to say. And it is when they liaise with retired officers, that gap will be filled. That collaboration and cooperation with retired officers, like the Chief of Defense Staff is doing, it will help to fill that gap. Because that lacuna, it is really a problem. I said also that this government, the police should have a national policing strategy so that we're able to take good focal leadership on policing and law enforcement in the country.
Well, it's certainly a fine place to leave it. You have made your points very clear. I'm hoping that, not just the government officials now, but also Nigeria Police Force and the leadership of the Nigeria Police will continue to take the baton and make a case for the wonderful officers in our Nigeria Police Force. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. Mr. Lawrence Alobi is the former commissioner of the police in the Federal Capital Territory. Thank you once again.
It's my pleasure.